And good evening, folks. It is your Wednesday night version of First Alert Weather Now here. I'm meteorologist Corey Thompson.
I'm meteorologist AJ Rickman.
Hard to believe we're already halfway through the week for those that are attending work at school, of course, on that Monday through Friday schedule. But we are, and it has just been kind of a repetitive weather week so far, and that's why it maybe feels a little bit out of place time-wise.
Just a little bit, yeah. I mean, it certainly feels out of place for the time of year as well. You look at the temperatures we're expecting for the next couple of days. It's stuff that you would typically see in June, July, August around here. But it's October. It doesn't feel like it, but it is October.
Yeah, totally. Yesterday was probably the closest we came, but today was a little bit warmer. So we'll just have to wait and see how things look over the next few days. We'll get into the details in just a little bit.
Absolutely, yeah. But we'll start you off first tonight with what you need to know. So what you need to know for the next couple of days is that we are going to be seeing that warm air return. As Corey mentioned, we did have that brief return to some fall-like air yesterday, but temperatures are starting to warm up today. We'll be back into the 80s by the time we get to Thursday. We do have a few more breezy days on the way. Won't be terrible for the day on Thursday, but by the time we get to the end of the week, we'll be seeing some windy conditions return. And again, we are staying dry. There's still no rain in the forecast, and there's really no rain across the entire middle part of the country right now. Plenty of sunshine, not just in Iowa, but everywhere. And then as we go through the rest of our evening, we're going to see that sunshine continue, maybe a few passing clouds overnight, and then those temperatures drop into the 40s, mid-40s for your overnight low. Tomorrow is going to be another warm day. Like I mentioned, those temperatures rebound. We're going to be up into the 70s in our northern zones, 80s in our southern zones, mostly sunny skies. Winds are kind of all over the place for the next couple of days. That's going to cause our temperatures to shift around a little bit as well, and that's something that we'll get into a little more detail with coming up here in a bit.
Yes, indeed, but not all bad all around, and that's continuing that streak of days that you might want to get out inside and enjoy.
Absolutely, yes. And if you do have any fun plans coming up for this weekend, not to worry. Meteorologist Joe Winters has today's forecast for fun.
Fun things are happening across eastern Iowa, and the weather is cooperating. That's why we want to give you some of those fun things to do as we take a look at our forecast for fun. Walking forecast, 81 on Thursday, 75 Friday, 82 Saturday. Windiest days, Friday and Saturday, especially Saturday from the south. Those wind gusts could be greater than 30 miles an hour, but it is going to be another warm day. As we look at our fall activities forecast for tomorrow, whatever you happen to be doing in late week, maybe a good time to visit the pumpkin patch or the apple orchard. It'll feel nice in the morning, and then it'll only get up to the mid-70s by 6. All in all, comfortable day, sunny skies with us, and you'll see that certainly continuing. Don't forget on Thursday, it is Beers in the Barnyard at Old McDonald's Farm. That's in Cedar Rapids. Live music, wine and beer sampling, picnic meal, bonfires, silent auction, and more. Could not ask for nicer weather with, again, a mostly sunny to mostly clear sky as the evening progresses. Pumpkin Fest and Way Off in Anamosa is Saturday. Gets underway at 8 o'clock. There's a big parade in downtown Anamosa as well. And, of course, the big Pumpkin Way Off. It looks mild with a high of 82 degrees. Friday Night Lights, that, of course, comes up with our game of the week. We will be over in Benton at Van Horn, where we do find Solon taking on Benton Community. 68 at kickoff, 61 in the fourth quarter, a few clouds, and that's broadcast live on KCRG 9.2, time starting at 7:30. So as you can see, a lot going on. That's why we love to give you our forecast for fun.
Now, your First Alert forecast with meteorologist Corey Thompson.
And all that quiet weather that is allowing things to, well, stay fun out there, at least in terms of you able to enjoy it. It's an area of high pressure that has really been keeping us quiet over the past couple of days. Notice, though, that it's a little bit further to the east than it was last night. On its backside, we're getting those southerly winds that allowed us to warm up a little bit more today. We got into the 70s again, but a cold front looms just off to our northwest. This front will cause a little bit of disruption in our weather as we head toward the very tail end of the work and school week. But we're going to kind of see stuff go back and forth in terms of temperatures and even in terms of seeing a little bit of cloud cover. But your first alert over the next 24 hours, all green here as we look ahead, because we're not expecting those major disruptions to be that big of a deal. Now, our Manchester City cam, I'm going to step out of the way a little bit here because that sunset looks really, really nice. We do have a little bit of wildfire smoke at the mid and upper levels that we'll show you here in just a second, and that's contributing to that bright orange and red color. Temperatures otherwise in the upper 60s to low 70s, 68 degrees in Manchester and Dubuque, 71 in Cedar Rapids. Those dew points are down in the low to mid 30s still, so the air is still extremely dry, and that has contributed to that comfortable feel that we felt during the afternoon. Now by tonight, those temperatures will dip again into the 40s. We're expecting 46 in Charles City, 46 in Washington. Mostly clear skies expected overnight with those winds becoming lighter and still staying southerly. Now tomorrow is when they begin to shift a little bit. So after we go through the evening, which has little disruption to it, we'll see a few patches of clouds at times tonight, but those will only be short-lived, and we'll likely see fairly sunny skies for most of tomorrow morning and most of tomorrow afternoon too. Now after the northwest, there's the influence of that cold front. It's going to be very slow moving, and it does bring with it some cloud cover. Also brings some northeasterly winds with it, and that's going to keep things looking, well, a little bit cooler as we wrap up the day. Now that's not before temperatures get into the 80s. Farther south where the sunshine is, we're expecting 84 in Oskaloosa, 81 in Cedar Rapids. To the north where that front moves through a little bit earlier, 75 in Decorah, 76 in Fayette. So there is a spread there from north to south. Everyone, though, no matter where you are, still feeling those above normal temperatures. Our wind gusts still looking a little bit breezy at times as we look ahead over the next 24 hours, but not as intense as we've seen both Monday and Tuesday. Today was a little bit better. Tomorrow kind of the same range in terms of wind speeds, but those will be a little bit stronger looking ahead. There's that wildfire smoke that's hanging around this evening. It will also be hanging around tomorrow with a new batch of it set to move off of wildfires that are burning in the Rocky Mountain states. The smoke will be pushing into the area, but the good news is it looks like it's going to stay at the upper levels, so we won't have to worry about air quality concerns. In fact, the latest look, only in the moderate category here in eastern Iowa, which is just a very, very few who are extremely sensitive to particulate pollution may even notice an issue. The vast majority of folks feel nothing from this type of air quality degradation there. Instead, it is staying pretty good. We're going to keep that going into the rest of the week. In the weekend, a little breezy. Saturday and Sunday is when those winds kick up again. Early next week is when we will see things, well, stay pretty sunny. A little bit cooler too. Overnight lows in the 40s, highs back in the 70s.
I will say, I don't know if I've ever seen a 9-day forecast with that much sunshine in it.
It's one of the quieter ones for sure, and we are trying to get to a record of no precipitation days in a row. We are at 33 days straight with only a trace of rainfall at most. So we're just going to have to watch that and see how long that lasts. Right now it looks like it's going to.
Well, if I understand it correctly and if I remember correctly, the record is 38 days. That's the longest stretch without getting precipitation. So if we can make it 5 more days, which it looks like we're going to do, we might have a new record on our hands.
To be determined, I guess.
Indeed, indeed. Well, this week for our Climate Connection, I had a little bit of a discussion on shifting cities and how it relates to climate and what it means for us here in Iowa. Well, for this week's Climate Connection segment, we're going to talk about shifting cities. Now, what exactly are shifting cities? It is a measure of what we use when we're referring to how much a place is going to warm up over the next 40, 80, or 100 years. For example, in Cedar Rapids, our average summertime high temperature is projected to be about 10 degrees warmer in 2100 than it is today. So that would be the same as Cedar Rapids shifting all the way south to Oklahoma City and having the same climate there during the summer months by 2100. So with that in mind, I'd like to have a look at where we've come from over the last 40 years to see how our cities have shifted around. For example, in Cedar Rapids in 2024, the 30-year average summertime high temperature was measured to be 81.9 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, if we turn the clock back 40 years to 1984, we would see that our temperatures back then were about a half a degree warmer than they are today. So we've actually cooled by a half a degree over the last 40 years. With that in mind, that would mean that Cedar Rapids has actually shifted north over the last 40 years from where Davenport is today to where Cedar Rapids is today. And that does check out well with what we've seen with summer warming since 1970. You can see a lot of the Midwest and much of Iowa hasn't necessarily seen a lot of warming, especially compared to other areas in the western U.S. or along the East Coast. So with that in mind, if we were to look at another city, say Amarillo, Texas, we would see that their 30-year average summertime high temperature was 91.2 degrees in 2024. If we were to turn the clock back 40 years in 1984, we would see they were about a degree and a half cooler, which isn't a huge change if you think about it one way, but that would be the same as them shifting south from Manhattan, Kansas, all the way down to where they are today, from northeast Kansas to North Texas, and that is quite a shift. If we were to look again at another city, say Atlanta, Georgia, we would see that their summertime 30-year average high temperature in 2024 was measured to be 88.5 degrees Fahrenheit. If we were to turn the clock back 40 years to 1984, again, we would see about a 1.5 degree decrease over 40 years in their temperature. In other words, from 1984 to 2024, their temperature has risen 1.5 degrees. That would be the same as them shifting south from Columbia, Missouri in 1984 down to Atlanta, where they are now. So we already have seen quite a bit of shifting around of our cities over the last 40 years. And like I mentioned, different cities shift around differently during different seasons. So for example, during the summertime, Cedar Rapids shifted north a little bit, whereas Amarillo and Atlanta have shifted south already over the last 40 years. Now in different seasons, we'll see different degrees of warming in different ways. For example, wintertime, we would see the eastern half of the U.S. has warmed a good bit more than the western U.S. And that does impact how our cities would shift around. As we get into winter, we'll have a look at how that would impact our shifting cities, and we'll cover that in a future segment.
Thanks, AJ. And we do have the warm weather sticking as we head into the weekend, too. Temperatures 81 degrees tomorrow, 75 on Friday, but then 82 again on Saturday. So it's that back and forth that's really going to be the highlight of the next several days. Staying warm again during the afternoon. A little bit cooler, a little breezy on Friday, but it's Saturday in particular that we're watching for some of those stronger wind gusts. By the afternoon hours, some of those could be between about 20 to 30 miles per hour. This time coming from a southerly direction. That's what's helping to push those temperatures back into the 80s. But be ready for that windy start to the weekend potentially. Same story on Sunday, but it will be coming from the opposite direction. We're talking about northwesterly winds by then, so that will set up some cooler temperatures. Monday looks like we are headed for some cooler temperatures too. Only a high of 71 degrees, which currently is only a couple degrees above normal. But by the time we get there, we're talking 5 degrees above normal. Remember, our normal highs continue to slide toward the cooler end of things. So as we go later in the 9-day, when you see those highs closer to 80, by then we're talking 15 to 20 degrees above normal in terms of those highs. So we are certainly not keeping pace with those seasonal averages. Obviously, this doesn't always follow along perfectly as those change, but we certainly seem to be sticking to the warm side, at least for the near and foreseeable future. Lots of sunshine out there too. As AJ said, it's hard to come by a 9-day that has less going on in it. In fact, clouds will be pretty tough to even see next week, probably just due to the amount of moisture we're going to have in the atmosphere. Just the overall weather pattern not conducive to even that. So that is a little disappointing if you're looking for some rain for sure. And if you just want to see something happen.
Absolutely, yeah. Now, I am not a farm kid, did not grow up around agriculture, but the way that I understand it, if we're going to get this stretch of dry weather, it's better to have it now towards the end of the growing season than early in the growing season when crops are trying to grow. So I guess there's your silver lining.
Sure, that is for sure too, to get the crops out of the field for sure. Farmers would rather some drier weather. Of course, the flip side is it's now getting so dry we are a little bit concerned about those field fires. But that's only really on those really windy days. So today it was an example. Saturday probably another example when it's warm again, where you might want to think about putting off that work just to reduce that risk a little bit, or at least just be very careful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Indeed. Thanks for joining us this evening. We will be back again tomorrow night, same time, same place. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.